Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day. Now that the dust has settled a bit on patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3, I thought this would be a great time to rank all of the subclasses on the tier list based on how fun they are. Now, one of my best videos on my channel is actually a tier list where I broke down all of the classes in the game, but this will be specific to the patch 8 subclasses, and some of them are extremely fun, and others, there's better options. So, the first one I'll be starting off with, just diving right into things, is the Arcane Archer Fighter. This is an interesting one. What I think to be one of the most enjoyable features is actually when you get right at level 3 with the Arcane Shot Banishing Arrow. This is incredible. So what it does is you can basically get the Banish spell at level 3 with an arrow, which also deals damage. Why is Banishing Arrow good? Well, there's lots of opportunities to use this for saving your teammates, taking out any type of spell caster that may shut down your entire team. Another place where the Banishing Arrows are extremely useful is against the Steel Watchers. In Act 3, whenever they go boom, you don't want your team to get hit by them, and you can just banish them so they don't go boom on your team. There's also some other fun abilities here, like you get the Seeking Arrow, which is actually like a magic missile version of an arrow. I think that this overall is pretty decent with what you get. You got some other arrows that are not so good, like the Enfeebling Arrow, the Beguiling Arrow. They're okay choices. Even the Piercing Arrow is weaker than if you were to use something like Arrow of Many Targets, which is much better. So yeah, I guess if you're going to play the Arcane Archer, the big thing you'd be focusing on is taking the Banishing Arrow. Another thing that's cool is once you hit level 7 with the Arcane Archer, you can actually, if you miss a target with your shot, you can use your bonus action to hit the next closest target, and you can do this once per turn. So it has a good use for the bonus action, turning your misses into a potential hit or just another free shot. That's not a bad ability overall. And also make sure arrows become magical so they overcome physical damage resistances, which I think is quite nice as well. You can get up to a 5 arcane shot choice. So you get 5 different arrows at the end of the game, and you can shoot these 10 times per short rest, which is actually really good because the base, if you were to play this in D&D, you only get 2 arrows. It's not that good. So Larian did make this a lot better than its D&D counterpart, but it's really heavily reliant on you using the Banishing Arrows often. So if you love the idea of banishing targets out of the combat, this is a great choice. It does have other options. I should mention like the Bursting Arrow, which can hit in a huge area of effect, but only does an additional 2 to 12 force damage to the other targets. Enfeebling Arrow can make them feeble, which makes them do half damage on their strength-based attacks. Grasping Arrow can make a target. It's basically like Booming Blade for an arrow, but weaker. Poison damage, one of the worst damage types in the game, and it does slashing damage, the second worst damage type in the game. So this one's not that great overall, but it's an option. Seeking Arrow will find the target. Shadow Arrow can blind the target for 2 turns, so that can be good. Its turns are quick because the moment that it becomes the target's turn, that uses up one of their turns, so it only ends up working to the end of the next turn. So something to consider, but Piercing Arrow again is better. There's better options. I thought it was pretty fun, but unfortunately, if you're using something like the Ballast Armor, it doesn't actually end up doubling a lot of this damage. So there are some limitations that come from the Arcane Archer. I do think that the Banishing Arrow is its biggest point. So I would say the Arcane Archer is somewhere around B tier. I prefer personally the Battlemaster Fighter. Getting Riposte as an ability is really useful. And with the Battlemaster, you got all the different Battlemaster maneuvers, which add additional damage onto your ranged attack. So if you're going to be an archer, the Battlemaster is probably better if you were focused on pure damage, but it's the utility that this brings with the Banishing Arrow. That's really the biggest point to it. So it can be cool, but that's kind of your one trick as an Arcane Archer. So that's something to consider if you think that combat style is fun. This can be a good one for you, but I don't think I'm going to put it any higher than B tier just because that's its really one gimmick that it can roll with. And I guess another thing, if you want to go full archer, the Sword Bard is probably also better, just like the Battlemaster Fighter. And next up, we got the DeathDomain Cleric. Now, I like the DeathDomain Cleric. I just think that there is some limitations, obviously with necrotic damage. However, at level 6, you ignore resistances to necrotic damage, so that's nice, but there are things that are immune straight up to it. Now, you can get yourself Bone Chill and then all the necromancy cantrips. The best thing about the DeathDomain is early game, you can target 2 targets with a cantrip. This gives you a really good early game because you're actually putting out some pretty respectable damage, but that does kind of taper off as you get later on in the game. So you get the False Life and the Ray of Sickness cantrips. Level 2 gives us the Channel Divinity Touch of Death, adding additional necrotic damage onto a melee attack, which also things like Inflict Wounds will count as a melee attack. So that's really the best early game damage option that you got. Level 3 will give you Blindness and Ray of Enfeeblement. Level 5 will give you Animate Dead and Vampiric Touch. Level 6, as I mentioned, gives you the Overcoming of Resistances to necrotic damage. so that you can just damage them normally. Level 7 gives you Blight and Death Ward. Level 8 gives you a Necrotic Strike, so on your melee attacks, or your weapon damage attacks, this can count as an offhand crossbow as well. You get an additional 1d8 of necrotic damage. Level 9 gives you Cloud Kill and Contagion. I guess the big thing here is Cloud Kill is an interesting spell because if you use Hero's Feast, you can make your entire team immune to that damage, so they can all camp out in the Cloud Kill. And then you can use the Animate Dead to create Undead, and it's an interesting combination. I just posted a build yesterday using the DeathDomain Cleric alongside the Necromancer Wizard, and also you can use the Bladesinging Wizard. It makes some really good multi-classes, but this class kind of tapers off after level 6, which makes it great for multi-classing, but overall, I think the DeathDomain Cleric is the best choice for Shadowheart if you're trying to keep her lore accurate. Char's 2 domains are Trickery and DeathDomain. Trickery, not good. I'll be honest with y'all. It's not good, and its abilities, it has 3 concentrations that it has to hold, and you can only have 1 concentration at a time, making the DeathDomain the preferred choice if you're going to go for a lore-accurate Shadowheart build. Outside of that, the DeathDomain's not bad, but I do think we have much more fun builds here, so I might actually just put this right around the B tier as well. It's a pretty fun one. I just don't want to... I'm trying to keep these things balanced to the B tier. S tier is obviously reserved for anything that's extremely fun and different. But the DeathDomain, it's really just about utilizing necrotic damage, which some people may find enjoyable. And next up is a pretty fun one, the Hexblade Warlock. You guys know this is really useful. It's one of the best single level dips in the game now because you can give yourself charisma scaling on your weapon. So if you wanted to take a paladin with a single level of this, it works pretty well. The big thing though with the Hexblade is you get access to the Hexblade's Curse, which you can use as a bonus action to apply give you a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus on your damage rolls, and then you have an increased critical hit chance by 1 or 5%. Now, previously, the Warlock does get an extra attack on all the subclasses if you choose Pact of the Blade, but the thing is, there were some spells that were added to patch 8, actually multiple spells that the Warlock gets. So all Warlocks are now more fun by default because they get Booming Blade. One of the most powerful cantrips has an additional 2d8 of thunder damage and then 3d8 if the target moves. It's basically a free smite you can do per action. It's not even just per turn. You can do it, if you have haste, you can do this twice in a turn. Also, the Hexblade got a lot of love. So not only does it have the best ranged cantrip in the game, it has the best melee cantrip in the game, and it also has a pretty good spell list. So it multi-classes well because Shield is a level 1 spell. If you mix in the Paladin, you get some level 1 spell slots from that you can use to expend on the Shield spell. Wrathful Smite, we don't care about that. It also gets Shadow Blade, which is extremely powerful. It can do a 4d8 of psychic damage. The Resonant Stone will double that. If you're looking for big numbers, big number make my caveman brain happy. I like this personally because of that. But that's not it, folks. We got more. On top of this, you also do get some extra choices. You still got to take Pact of the Blade here to get that extra attack. But you also get the Blur Spell and Branding Smite, which is not something super useful, but it's there. You can also see in Darkness, which does power up Shadow Blade to give it advantage on attack rolls, so you'll never miss. At level 6, you can raise in a Cursed Spectre from the ground whenever you take out a target that has your Hexblade's Curse. Be mindful, things like Call the Weak won't actually let you raise this up, so just a heads up on that. I've got some comments regarding it, but the Spectre's not bad. It's just a little extra damage, and it'll take hits for your team. The thing that I think is crazy is this is another new spell that not a lot of people are talking about. It does use a concentration and a bonus action, but it adds an additional 46 of psychic damage to your attack. Why that's crazy? Well, Shadow Blade, as I mentioned, does 48 of damage. This adds another 46 of psychic damage, which can all be doubled. So it's like you're doing an 8d8 plus an 8d6 of damage. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Again, it does use a bonus action and your concentration. You also get Phantasmal Killer, and what's interesting is it actually gives you the Archface spells as well. I think this is a bug, so it also gives you the Dominate Beast and Greater Invisibility as spell choices. So that's something else as well. It gets an extra extended spell list. And then once you make your way to level 9, you also get Cone of Cold, one of the best later game damage spells, and also works well if you have someone that creates water to double it and create ice surfaces. And then you also get Banishing Smite, which is like a level 5 smite, which you normally can't get in Baldur's Gate 3 because those cap off at level 4. This will add a 5d10 of force damage, one of the best damage types in the game. And you can also banish the target, so that's kind of cool too. It's nice. And finally, the Armor of Hexes. When you creature you're cursed with the Hexblade Curse attacks you can potentially nullify it as a reaction, so you get a 50% chance of not taking any damage. That's pretty good, I'll admit. The Hexblade Warlock, offensive powerhouse, multi-class, like just perfect for multi-classing. And if you're outside of honor mode, those extra attacks do stack, so that's how you can get a paladin that does 3 attacks per action. It's extremely powerful, and I think an S tier choice. This is the best Warlock subclass, bar none. It gets some cool abilities. You can raise ghosts. You get Booming Blade is added to the game. So all subclasses of the Warlock are just straight up better now. But this is honestly one of the coolest, not only from a multi-classing perspective, from just overall, it's got a lot of different options with both spell casting and melee combat. So yeah, this is definitely an S tier pick. And now for the Drunken Master. So unfortunately, Open Hand Monk is just so good. It makes everything else look worse. The Way of the Shadow is also extremely good too. The Way of the Four Elements is a bit weird. And the Way of the Drunken Master, which is the focus of this, is just, I would say, the worst. The Way of the Four Elements at least has the Flame of the Fire Snake, which makes it better. With this, you get your Drunken proficiency. Woohoo! Proficiency and performance. And you also overcome negative effects of being drunk, so you don't get that dexterity negatives or disadvantage there. And you regain your key points when you drink alcohol. This is great for if you wanted to do like an alcoholic playthrough or something like that, where you focus on, you know, utilizing the alcohol in the game. Overall, I don't think that that's great, because the Way the Open Hand can just regenerate half their key points and give themselves a bonus action to deal even more damage. But you get the Drunken technique here. I will give them props because the animations for the Way of the Drunken Master look hilarious. That's got to be some of the coolest animations in gaming for a monk, I should say. You get the Life of the Party. Every time Intoxicating Strike hits, the monk gains Life of the Party, which increases armor class and attack rolls against drunk targets. Now, don't be deceived. This isn't actually as useful as it may seem. You also have to use the Intoxicating Strike, which you see there. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Possibly gets the target drunk, which is nice. It makes it so that your sorcerers can cast Fireball and have them land a little bit more frequently. You'll see the bonus action version of it. Straight up worse than the Open Hand Monk. Again, Happy Caveman Brain likes big numbers. The Open Hand is going to give you plus 100 damage on an attack. You still get all the nice benefits of stunning strikes and things like that, but it's just not that good. You also, once you hit level 6, get the subclass feature, the Redirect Attack. When a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can spend 1 key point to do an unarmed attack back. Basically, Riposte from the Battlemaster Fighter, but worse. You use a key point and your reaction for that. And then you also get Leap to your feet. Whenever you get knocked prone, it only takes 1.5 meters of movement speed. Doesn't really matter. And once you hit level 9, you get the Sobering Realization, which does an additional 2d8 of psychic damage to an attacker, but it removes Life of the Party, so that plus whatever to your armor class that you got is now gone. So yeah, you lose out on that for just a little bit of extra damage. Now, I can remind you that the Open Hand Monk will get the extra psychic damage on their attacks from the Manifestation of the Mind, which you can then use for a bonus action to punch twice and get that same damage without losing your buffs or anything like that. The Way of the Drunken Master, I feel like my personal thoughts, they should have gave this subclass Tavern Brawler once you hit level 4 or level 6 or something. That would at least put it on par maybe with the Open Hand. Not even on par, but it'd make it a better choice. There is no reason to play the Way of the Drunken Master unless you like the idea of the roleplay aspect of playing as a drunken monk. That's really about it. I'll be honest with y'all. If you want to try and play the Drunken Master Monk, you got to have that roleplay in mind. Otherwise, you're just going to be questioning why you didn't play the Open Hand Monk. I am a big fan of the monk. I just think that this class was, it's not Larian's fault, it's just not that great. It's more so, again, in D&D, it's like a role-play based class, and even so, there's much better options in D&D. And when the Open Hand Monk exists, which, again, big numbers always makes me happy. That's not everything, but this just, any of the benefits it gets, the Open Hand Monk almost has similar benefits, but better. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Drunken Master Monk. I wanted to like it, but it's just not, it's not that fun after trying it many times. And I've heard many others have similar ideas with it. Now, I was previously a huge Sword Bard fan because it's a spellcaster that's also a melee attacker, and it balances the two well. This Bladesinging Wizard is a match made in heaven. For anyone that enjoys a Gish-style build, this is the ultimate Gish, because you get full spellcasting, and at level 6, you get an extra attack. And it multi-class as well. So I'll be breaking down everything about this because the Bladesinging Wizard is seriously so good. So you get a bonus up to +4 to your armor class and +4 to Constitution saving throws, which is to hold your concentration on spells, so you're much less likely to drop any of those. You also get proficiency in certain weapons, so you get to pick a free weapon, but the big thing with the Bladesinging Wizard is how good it is at multi-classing, because it can pair well with a lot of subclasses. Like, for example, if you went with the DeathDomain Cleric, you get the Channel Divinity to max roll your lightning damage, and with that, you also get Create Water, so you can do Create Water into Chain Lightning, and that will do 160 damage if you use the Channel Divinity to give it the max roll of its damage. So 160 damage on 4 targets, guaranteed. That's crazy. Big numbers again. But it also has the flexibility of doing melee attacks And it also gets the Booming Blade cantrip, and it gets Shadow Blade. So if you want to be the strongest melee attacker in the game, you can do that. I've had some people tell me, hey, Shadow Blade sucks because Steel Watchers resist psychic damage. There's a few things in the game that do resist psychic damage. Not resist, but are immune to it. There's not many. But that's where the Bladesinging Wizard comes in, because Steel Watchers are weak to lightning damage. So then you go ahead with your Chain Lightning, boom, blast them. As I mentioned, multi-classing is a huge component, I think, of the Bladesinging Wizard, because it pairs well with pretty much any full caster. If you go with the Circle of Stars Druid, you're never dropping your concentrations again. The DeathDomain Cleric give you a Necromancer-style build that's melee-focused. The Tempest Domain, as I mentioned, is one of my favorites. I also think the Light Domain is great for protecting your team and doing additional fire damage on attacks. You can also pair this with the Sorcerer and get a lot of great effects out of it. The Storm Sorcerer is one that I really enjoy mixing it with. And you can even add 2 levels of the Paladin or 2 levels of the Ranger, and you'll still get the full spellcasting progression if you take 10 levels of full spellcasters. So something like 10 levels of the Wizard, and then 2 levels of Paladin. You can then scribe Chain Lightning and Luke's Freezing Sphere from scrolls, and then you also get Divine Smite, which you can set to a reaction on your melee attacks. The reason that the Bladesinging Wizard is so strong, though, is just because it's really good at 2 things. You can learn any spell from a scroll, and you'll be able to cast it with pretty good abilities. The Gloves of the Battle Mage's power was fixed in patch 8, so that can now allow you to do Divine Smite to get the extra damage. Booming Blade will get the extra arcane acuity, and Shadow Blade, just a regular attack with Shadow Blade and the Gloves of the Battle Mage's power, gives you arcane acuity. So if you go around stabbing people with that, you can get a +10 to your spell save DC, and then you can land things like Hold Person, Hold Monster, Chain Lightning, and not miss. It's extremely versatile. That's why I think the Bladesinging Wizard is possibly one of the most fun subclasses in the game. I'm going to put it up at the top of the S tier. If you want a Thor or God of Thunder build, you can go all in on the Tempest Domain and this. It splits really well because you can take 6 levels of each, and then you got yourself a very powerful attacker. So yeah, endless multi-class combinations. It does get a cool ability at level 10 where you get the Song of Defense, which you can take a spell slot and reduce the damage that you take from an attack by 5 times the spell slot's level. Don't recommend doing that personally, but it's an option. It just multi-classes so well. It's a great spellcaster. It's a great melee attacker because Booming Blade plus Shadow Blade is actually crazy for melee damage. The only thing that I would say is better at doing that is maybe the Eldritch Knight Fighter, which gets 3 attacks, but it doesn't get the spellcasting prowess that the Bladesinging Wizard gets. So yeah, this is an easy S tier for me. It's super strong. But again, it's not about pure strength, it's about how fun each build is. And I just think having all the options at your disposal in combat is quite fun because you can drop grease on the enemy, you can drop ice surfaces, you can spellcast, you can melee attack, you can do everything. Next up, we have the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. I think this is another fun class. They homebrewed a little doggy that you get in, and I think that's cool in itself. You get the Strength of the Grave, so if you go down to 0, you get back up with 1 health point, which is nice and all. You get Superior Dark Vision. This is in the big benefits of it. One of the most useful features. Now, don't shoot me. I like darkness. You don't have to like darkness, but I think it's fun because it gives you a reason to be more stealthy, and it also has some benefits outside of combat. Now, there's only one class that can get darkness vision in magical darkness, and that's going with a warlock. And the Devil's Sight, they get the ability to see in magical darkness. There are 3 items in the game that also give you that ability. Or now, with patch 8, if you take the eyes, if you use the Shadow Magic Sorcerer, this Eyes of the Dark, it doesn't work with this version. It only works with the Eyes of the Darkness, which does use 2 sorcery points in an action to cast, and it's a concentration. When you cast this, you get the ability to see in darkness for 10 turns alongside it. So you can drop down your darkness. If you have a Hexblade Warlock with you, they can take advantage of that as well. Maybe they'll drop a Hunger of Hadar with their concentration. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Not only that, it actually pairs pretty well again with the Bladesinging Wizard, but that's for more of a stealth-based build. You get a great spell list. Again, it also has Shadow Blade. It has Booming Blade. Once you hit level 6, you get that Hound of Ill Omen, which can regenerate your sorcery points for you, because whenever you use this, if you use it applies an omen on its attack that when you use that elemental damage type against the enemy, you get a sorcery point back. So it's pretty cool. It doesn't always have the highest hit chance, but it's something that can potentially give you sorcery points if you're lucky. Hey, who's a good boy? Yeah, you see that? You get a dog. This is awesome. There's also mods that change the color of the dog, make it more purple and things like that. So yeah, there's even mods that make it a cat, the Ace Cats mod. So yeah, there's lots of fun things you can do with the dog. No, it doesn't have a great hit chance with the Ominous Bite, but it's something. The thing that you want to use this for is the Umbral Tangle too, so you can trap enemies in this large area of effect, and what that'll do is just basically bind them for 3 turns. So it's bringing a lot of utility. The best part about the dog too is if it gets attacked with a melee attack, and it doesn't have radiant damage, it'll splinter off into another dog. And if that dog gets attacked, it'll splinter off. You can get multiple dogs. I've had 6 or 7 dogs at a time. It's really fun. If you're using Aid and Hero's Feast, you can really buff up their health and then just keep them all alive. It's fun if you want to do something silly, like just go all dogs on the enemy. Pretty fun. Also, at level 11, the Dark Shadow Magic Sorcerer gets the ability to Shadow Step, basically a free Misty Step that doesn't use a spell slot. And it can only go to darkness, which is very generous because all of this floor is actually considered darkness if I didn't have Nyrolna on my back. It counts late shadows, lately obscured, as a way to teleport. So with the Shadow Magic Sorcerer, you can teleport to anywhere, even your darkness. But the best benefit of it is it also gives you a free range increase of your range of your spells by 50%. So it's like the meta magic that you get, the distance spell. That makes it crazy because then you can set up your darkness, shadow step your way to the darkness, and then you get increased range so you can hit people with a magic missile from really far away. It's got to be one of the coolest new subclasses. I think that I like the Bladesinging Wizard a little bit more. I'm a Sorcerer fan personally. I used to hate Wizards. I just think the multi-class ability of this is so good. These actually multi-class well together too because you can get the dog. The dog doesn't scale past level 6. So you can go with this. You get the ability to see in darkness. You can put up your concentration on darkness. And then with the Bladesinging Wizard, you can go around melee attacking and spell casting. And then you can learn things like Chain Lightning from scrolls. And then use the Hat of Fire Acuity or the Gloves of Battle Mage Power to overcome the spell save DCs. So yeah, I would have to say this is another S tier pick. It gives you a dog. It gives you increased range in your spells. It gives you the ability to see in darkness. And darkness is one of the most powerful things in the game. Again, it's not about power, but having all those options at your disposal and a good get out or jail free card if you're in a bad situation to retreat back to your darkness is cool too. The dog also sees in darkness, so it actually all pairs together very well. And I really like the multi-class of the Bladesinging Wizard and going around stabbing with Shadow Blade. But next we got the Giant Barbarian. I will admit, the Berserker is the better thrower of the two. The Giant still is pretty fun, and it's more versatile, which does lead to fun. As I mentioned, being versatile and being able to do different things in combat and play the way you want to play is fun. So you get the Giant's Rage, it makes you large. This is great if you like big Karlach. And also, that Giant's the large spell does actually stack if you use the Elixir of the Colossus, so you can make yourself massive. Now you get the Boot of the Giant at level 6. Oot and a Boot, you can boot people off of ledges. Bonus action, it deals fixed amount of damage, you get up to like 17. The nice thing about that is you can push people off of ledges insta take them out. But the thing that I like most is the Elemental Cleaver. So this will add acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage to your attacks. And it gives the weapon the thrown property. So now you can throw Baldur's Giant Slayer and actually get good damage out of it. Previously, it would be like a 1d4, and it's a 2d6 weapon. So you can now get the proper 2d6 on a throw. And this allows you to throw anything. You don't have to just rely on Nyrolna to be thrown around all the game. But once we hit level 10, we get the Mighty Impelled. I'm going to show you this live because it's hilarious. It's a bonus action. You can throw something. You can throw a weapon too, but it's a suplex. If you know WWE, it's like you grab them and you flip them backwards. You'll see it in a second here. So first you got to go into your Giant's Rage here. So you freak out, get large, and then you can do your Mighty Impel, but you can also add the Elemental Cleaver. I like the Snowburst Ring, adding cold damage so that you can make ice surfaces below enemies. And then we'll go with the Mighty Impel here, and you can actually get pretty silly. You can throw them at each other, which will knock them prone. The animation is just so good. So that's what it looks like. You get the free prone so that you get a free throw again. Well, I guess you can throw really anyone, but what's great about this is, again, the animation. Boom! I fell through the floor there. So we'll go with it. Once again, I'm using a mod just to be able to showcase this a little bit better. And you can also throw them at other people. It looks hilarious. Critical! And then you also got the Boot of the Giants too, so you can just kick people around. That is hilarious as well. So yeah, everything about this is pretty fun, I would say. The throwing animations I just think are hilarious. Being able to throw people into each other and take them out just like that. I think that that is just so good. Yeah, it's just one of the more fun classes just for how goofy it can get. I'm a big fan of just being able to go around throwing people. You basically do a throw, and then you can use the Mighty Impel to get another throw there. But yeah, you see it here. It's hilarious. It pairs well still with Nyrolna. Like, you're probably still better off using one of the better throwing weapons. Like, Nyrolna is just one of the best weapons in the game for throwers. But yeah, you can just use anyone you see as a throwing item. And what's kind of funny too is if you're going to go with a DeathDomain Cleric, you can use the Bursting Sinew to explode these corpses. So you can throw corpses and then get your Cleric to explode them. That's pretty funny, but just this animation alone is so much fun. So yeah, I just love being able to suplex people over and over again, and then also being able to kick them too. So yeah, there's nothing better than using a person as a weapon like that. Somehow we missed that one, but yeah, kick them around. It's just pure goofiness. If these animations look fun to you, then the Giant Barbarian is worth trying. Although I will admit that I do think it's better to play as just a regular old, if you wanted to go with the Throw-Zerker. If you're going to do something like using Nirolna, it's probably just better to use that weapon anyways. But yeah, I just want to showcase the animations because they are really funny. And with that, I'd have to say Giant Barbarian. I'm going to put it in the A tier. Now, the thing is, again, Throw-Zerker or the Berserker Barbarian is going to be better in most instances, but the versatility cannot be denied. This is a fun subclass. Now, next up is the Oath of the Crown Paladin. I like this because it gets Spirit Guardians, which is a cool spell. It also gets Spiritual Weapons, so it adds some from the Cleric spell list. It's a protector, first and foremost, but the big downside, the reason that I don't love this subclass is because it's so easy to break the Oath of the Crown. You get cool abilities like the Champion's Challenge. You challenge all the enemies around you to attack you. Any other attacks they may make will have disadvantage. So using this, you can make everyone just focus on you, which is a cool way. There's no really other ways to like focus the enemy's attacks on you. And you also got the Turn the Tide, which can heal the team. You also get the command spell. What I think works best for this is if you're to play with, let's say, your significant other or a friend and you want to protect them, this is a really good protector class because it gets that ability to not only draw the aggro to yourself, you also get the spiritual weapon, but then once we hit ourselves to level 6 here, you get the aura protection, which will give you that plus charisma modifier to saving throws for everybody. And then level 7, when an ally within 1.5 meters of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically substitute your own health for your allies taking the damage instead of them. And what's cool about that is it makes it so that you get hit with radiant damage. What's not cool about that is if you have any gear that applies radiating orbs, you do get hit with it yourself. So there's some limitations because this is a really good radiating orb build because it gets Spirit Guardians, and at level 11 it adds radiant damage to its melee attacks. So it's got a lot of cool options, but I think that the best ability from the Oath of the Crown Paladin is using the Spirit Guardians and the Champion's Challenge. This is a huge radius which will draw everyone to attack your character. So boom, Champion's Challenge, come at me, bro. Basically, it'll get disadvantage on anyone that doesn't, if it attacks anyone else. So I think it's cool. I might just put it into the B tier because this is fun if you're playing with others. But solo play, the Vengeance Paladin, I think is stronger. And on top of all that, it's an easy oath to break, which no one enjoys breaking their oath and paying $1,000 over and over and over again, despite Withers not caring if you rob him blind. But next up is the Swashbuckler Rogue. So with the Swashbuckler, it gets some of its abilities level 3 and some at level 4. The fancy footwork, whenever you attack a target, you don't get hit with opportunity attacks. That's nice. +2 to initiative, and it'll scale up with your rogue level. And you don't need advantage to trigger sneak attacks, as long as you don't have disadvantage. That's pretty useful, because then you're more reliable to get your sneak attacks off. The big thing with this subclass is once you get level 4, you get the Dirty Trick Flick of the Wrist, which you can use your weapon to disarm a target. These use charisma, just a heads up, so things like the Vicious Mockery and the Flick of the Wrist use your charisma. And then Santos uses dexterity for its attack roll. Kind of interesting, but this being able to disarm a target as a bonus action is really nice. Being able to hit a bonus action Vicious Mockery is also pretty nice. You can also do that with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. Just a little heads up there. But the other thing you get is at level 9, you get the Panache, which sucks, I'll be honest. You roll a persuasion check to beguile a humanoid. It can contest it with an insight check. And those that fail get Panache disadvantage, and those who fail become charmed. Not that great. I would only recommend taking this Swashbuckler Rogue up to level 4, but I think it's pretty fun. You get Vicious Mockery, one of the most fun cantrips in the game. You get to say a bunch of curse words and silly things at the enemy. Also, what's great is every single Origin Companion has their own unique dialogue for this cantrip. You also get Flick of the Wrist, which is nice because you can disarm a target, pick up their weapon. It's yours now. You're a pirate. Arr, take their weapon. And Santos, I'm going to throw some dirt in your eye. Pocket sand, if you're a fan of King of the Hill, or if you're a fan of Spider-Man. This is fun too. Now, overall, I don't think the Rogue itself is great past level 4, but this will allow you to get a feat and then take another class up to level 8 and get another feat. So that's pretty good. I think this is fun from a roleplay perspective. Compared to, like, as I mentioned, this is a roleplay class if you're going to play the Drunken Master. This lets you be a pirate, and it's just better. It's a dip. You're not going to take this to level 12, but I overall think the Swashbuckler is pretty fun. Yeah, I might even say A tier. This and the Arcane Archer could swap, I'd say, but I do think that this is a fun dip. I think the Rogue is Rogue is just the weakest class in D&D in general, and some people don't like hearing that, but it's a lot weaker than the others. This makes it at least not as bad, and it makes for good multi-classes. But speaking of bad, we have the College Glamour Bard next. So once you hit level 3 with the Oath, or the Glamour Bard, Mantle of Inspiration, imbue 2 allies, you can eventually do 4 allies. With 5 temporary health, later on it becomes 11. And if they're hit with a melee attack, the attacker becomes charmed. No save, they're charmed. That's pretty good. Although the Illithid ability can give you charm on attack as well, so that's something. Although it does use your reaction, this one doesn't. It's okay. It's okay. Extra temporary health is nice, but really good if you want to keep buffing up your team and giving them extra health, because you can do this, give a short rest, and you actually get an extra short rest from the Bard, so you can actually apply a lot of extra health to the enemy or to your team. And once we hit level 6, we get the Mantle of Majesty command. This is a bonus action command. You can apply it to one target. If you have the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel and a Sword Bard, they can attack twice and then get a bonus action command as well, which can be upcast. So the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel and a Sword Bard, I think, is a little better, but this is free and it doesn't cost a spell slot, and you can keep doing it for 10 turns. So that in itself is pretty good. Command is a really useful spell. That's definitely one you want to utilize. Mantle of Inspiration will also increase to 8 temporary health, and you can hit 3 targets with it at level 6. And then once we hit level 10, we get the boost to 11 temporary health and 4 targets. I personally think that the Sword Bard is a lot better and a lot more fun. Even the College of Lore Bard with its Spirit Guardians at level 6, I think is a little bit better. Yeah, I think that this one's not bad if you like the idea of applying extra temporary health and also getting the command spell, but it just feels like it's lacking something that the other classes have. So I actually think this one's C tier. After using it extensively, it's fun because bards are fun at the end of the day. But if you're going to play a bard, lore and sword, I just think are a lot better in a lot of instances. But if you think the Glamour Bard's cool, don't let this tier list get you wrong. If you think you'll enjoy it, send her. Don't listen to people's opinions online if you think it'll be fun for yourself. Just after trying it, I think that if you were to use a Sword Bard Paladin, it's just a little bit more fun because it also gets command and it gets the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, bonus action, spell casting and all that. More versatility compared to just this. So, yeah. And now for the Circle of the Stars Druid, which I think is cool. Not only that, it looks cool when you're in your starry form, which I'll show off in a minute. So you also get the Guidance Cantrip, super useful to have. Guiding Bolt, which uses your star map form charges here, so you get a free casting of that. And then you get your starry forms, and I think this is the most enjoyable part of this. So it's a form where you still get to spell cast, but you get bonuses. I personally really like the Dragon, so when you make a saving throw to maintain concentration, you roll at minimum a 10. So any dice roll that you roll below a 10 is going to be a 10. If it's higher, it stays its number. And you get a Dazzling Breath, which can apply Radiating Orbs really easily. The Chalice, whenever you do a healing spell, you get a bonus extra heal that you can do. And the Archer just gives you a Luminous Arrow, which is a bonus action, single target attack. All three of these are pretty useful. The thing is, as you continue to level up, the Druid actually has a really good spell list. You get the Woodland Being, which is one of the best spells. You also do get things like the Owlbear form that you can use to stay alive with. But one of the big benefits you get is the Cosmic Omen here, which is either an omen, a weal, or woe. So you can increase or decrease attack rolls, saving throws, and ability checks for your allies, so that you can boost your allies' attack rolls or reduce the enemy's attack rolls. So it's kind of like a Divination Wizard, but a diet one, a much weaker one. Still really nice to have that there. So going into the starry forms here, I like the Dragon, as I mentioned. Cool animations to get into them there. And then boom, you got this cool starry aura around your character while you're in it. I think that looks cool in itself. But then you get the Dazzling Breath, which is a 3d6 plus 3 plus your wisdom modifier damage. So you can go ahead here with a large area of effect. Also cool, the yellow flames there. You also get the Cosmic Omen ability check, which you can apply on someone. But what's nice about this is it actually applies Radiating Orbs really easily with this. So boom, you can breathe out here. But once you hit level 10, your starry forms are improved. So the Dragon will get the ability to fly and hover at a movement speed of 6 meters. And then you also can change your type anytime that you want. So you can go, you're in a wild shape here now, but once we swap, we can do it freely. So boom, yeah, the Twinkling Constellations, it increases the Archer and the Chalice healing by a 1d8 as well. So here we're in our archer form. You get that 1d8 and now 2d8 of radiant damage. So you can do you get a little bow there. It looks really cool when you fire that off. But then you can swap your forms freely. It doesn't even cost an action or a bonus action. So if you wanted to swap and go into the Chalice healing to give you that extra 2d8 of healing, you can do that. Or then you can swap into the dragon as well. So you got options. You can pop around into these different forms as you see fit. Dazzling Breath also increases the amount of damage that you'll be dealing with it. So yeah, the Star Druid I think is really good. It multi-class as well. As I mentioned, the Bladesinging Wizard is a great multi-class. With the Bladesinging Wizard getting a bonus to its concentrations and this getting a boost to its concentrations in the dragon form, there's some pretty cool multi-classes. But even still, the Druid itself has so many options. You can turn into an owlbear if things go south. You got lots of great crowd control spells. You get Woodland Being, you get the elementals. The Druid, I think, is one of the most underrated classes in the game, and the Star Druid brings a lot of utility to the game. You got so many different options. So with that, I would say the Circle of Stars is another A-tier pick. It's pretty fun. Again, the Arcane Archer Fighter could pop up there, but I'm just trying to keep this balanced as much as possible. But finally, we got the Swarmkeeper Ranger. Now, with the Swarmkeeper, you get one of the best cantrips in the game with Mage Hand. Use this to throw healing potions at your team. You won't regret it. We also get the Prey Send. Your swarm deals additional damage, so the 1d6 that you get from your swarm will be an additional 1d6 when you use Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark's really good. Use it. Also, you get Fairy Fire. That's okay. But you get to pick between the Legion of Bees, which deals piercing damage and can push a target, Jellyfish, which can deal lightning damage and shock a target, or the Flurry of Moth, which can deal psychic damage and blind the target, although the blind doesn't really work as you'd imagine, because once the target's next turn appears, it loses the blindness, so you don't really get the big benefit from it. It's mostly just to set up extra attacks against them with disadvantage. Now, the Swarmkeeper is decent. At level 5, you also get the Web spell. At level 7, you get the Writhing Tide, which you can use your swarm to move you around up to 9 meters, and it will not get hit by, you won't get hit by surface effects. And then once you get level 9, you also get the Gaseous Form spell. And then level 11 gives you the Mighty Swarm. So your swarm will now deal 1d8 damage instead of 1d6, and it has a special feature on its attacks, and you can teleport with your swarm. It'll give you a +2 armor class for an extra turn, so that can be pretty good. So you can actually disarm the targets with the Jellyfish, so that's nice, an extra benefit. The Flurry of Moths can slow the target, and then the Legion of Bees can knock the target prone. So it has some pretty fun effects, but just not really anything super useful overall. So I'd have to say Swarmkeeper is probably going to go into the B tier here. So it's not bad. So there's the list there. It's not bad, but it's just not one of the better subclasses in the game. So with that, this is our full list here. So we have the Bladesinging Wizard in the top of the S tier here. So much versatility in combat, spell casting, you name it, it can do it. It multi-class as well. You just get so many options that it's fun. The Shadow Magic Sorcerer, you get a dog. You also get the ability to teleport to darkness, and you can see in darkness. So if you like the thoughts of shadows, this is a good one. And it, again, gets a dog. Enough said. We also got the Hexblade Warlock, which is versatile like the Bladesinging Wizard, but it has this packed magic, so it doesn't pair as well. But it pairs well with things like the Paladin and the Bard for a lot of really useful combat effectiveness. A tier, Giant Barbarian, very versatile, not as strong as a Throw Zerker, but you can do a lot of different things with it, and you can throw whatever weapon you want. The Swashbuckler, I think it's pretty fun. I don't love the Rogue that much, but I think it's pretty fun. And the Circle of the Stars, being able to go into your starry form and still spell cast and then get all those extra benefits of swapping between your forms, like going into your Dazzling Breath, swap into the Luminous form, and if your team needs some heals, you can do the Chalice healing as well. It's versatile and lots of cool options when it comes to combat. The Arcane Archer could go up to the A tier, like I could potentially put it up around here. I do think that it's a fun one, but Banishing Arrow is really its big trick, so A tier to B tier. The Crown Paladin, again, it's just easy to break that oath, and I think the Vengeance Paladin's a little bit more fun. Personally, DeathDomain and Swarmkeeper, they're pretty alright, but I think the Drunken Master Monk could have been done a little better. As I mentioned, if it got Tavern Brawler, I think it would have been a lot better, but overall, that's my list of most fun subclasses in patch 8. Let me know your thoughts, though, in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day.